15 years ago, someone came to me and gave me the opportunity to argue in front of a real live mic about grown men in spandex. So, 15 years later, when they asked again if I'd like to do that, of course I said yes. Every great comic needs an origin story, and this is Golden Geeks.
Golden Geeks. Golden Geeks.
I've always kind of been a nerd. Been a geek. I've always loved kind of the nerdy stuff. I've loved comic books. I've loved pro wrestling. I've loved musical theater. I was a sports guy as well, but honestly, I was more a fan of kind of what we would now call that nerd culture, that geek culture. I collected comic books. I collected action figures. I've been as you can kind of see behind me, I'm a Batman fan. I grew up watching that stuff. Loved Saturday morning cartoons. Used to play with Star Wars figures. And what I found is now that I'm of a certain age, it's weird. The tide has kind of turned where you get to a certain point in your life of whether it's age, maturity, wealth, financial independence, or a combination of all of them, where I find that I'm no longer apologetic about what I'm a fan of. Yeah. I don't care. I like what I like. And if you don't, that's cool. And we'll talk about my most recent professional experience. But this whole nerd culture, this whole geek culture, it's now become kind of monetized in the world through, we talked about my experience recently with Prop Store, some of the other online auction companies, where if you look at the things that are going for big money now, it's trading cards, it's sports memorabilia, now it's entertainment memorabilia. And it's kind of funny when I was kind of thinking about this whole show and this whole concept with you. I'm a big fan of the show Modern Family, and there's an episode where Mitch is talking to a young Manny, and Mitch says to him, "Is different. Everybody's desperately afraid to be different in any way." And then suddenly, almost overnight, everybody wants to be different, and that's where we win.
Think about growing up. For years and years, everybody's desperately afraid to be different, in any way. And then suddenly, almost overnight, everybody wants to be different. And that is where we win.
And I feel like for people like you and me, this is where we win. Like the highest grossing movies now, right? They tend not to be heavy dramas or rom-coms anymore. Now, what is it? It's superheroes and science fiction.
Well, and if you want to talk about the iconic stories, right? You want to talk about the iconic stories that happen throughout a lot of history and literature. They aren't being told in their own ways anymore. They're being told through the eyes of comic books that we know. They're being told through the eyes of television shows or characters that, from the 80s coming back to now be our guides, so to speak, because entertainment has always been our guide, right? Life imitates art. So it's interesting that we're in a spot where now we may be able to come together and talk about the social and political, in certain ways, implications of a character like Superman. We both went, we saw the movie, right, wrong, or indifferent. There was a lot of stuff in the media about it. But I think that for me triggered this. It triggered that thought of, I went and saw the movie and had a very specific thought and went, how the hell is why isn't that being talked about? Because it seems like that's what most people would be actually feeling when they walked out of that theater. So that's where I kind of look at it. I know that there's definitely a fire on, political and social, economical, all of the cultural aspects of this. But most people just want to know if it was a good movie. Most people just want to know if it actually followed some sort of story or something that they can look back on. The Batman movies, I remember when the Batman movies were coming out, and you're a huge Batman fan, and you were very excited about stories they were using to tell that. And to me, that's what it's all about. Taking comic books that maybe people that are, 10, 15 have never read, like The Long Halloween, and saying, that is where this comes from. That is where this is going to. I like that kind of stuff. So that's why I want to come together.
Just the general concept of, what we talk about, you kind of opened up with it, that all of our casual conversations, if you and I were just to FaceTime or call each other on a random Thursday when we're in our cars, what are we probably going to talk about? You know what? Or tonight, we happen to be meeting some friends for dinner tonight, my wife and I. And when I think ahead to dinner with them, what am I not going to talk about? Sure in hell, I'm not going to talk politics anymore. Right? Take that out. Religion's always kind of offline, right? Don't talk politics, don't talk religion. What does that leave us with? Sports. Okay, so still think that kind of falls into our bubble. But what do you tend to talk about? Pop culture. That's like the go-to now of, casual conversation. Where's that? And I'm sure we'll talk about some of the divisiveness even in this now. And I think that's why I wanted to kind of start these conversations with you, is I do think it's popular. And again, we can talk about it now. If you want the biggest proof of it, we Prop Store just finished its entertainment memorabilia live auction.
I was actually going to say, so let's talk about what you do. I have done a couple of podcasts in the past, but you, Jamie, you have had a very long history of taking something that was a passion of yours and turning it into success. So even though we're not going to talk about pro wrestling here that often, or maybe we will, who knows? Let's kind of walk through, Jamie, you were the owner and founder of Chaotic Wrestling, considered to be one of the best pro wrestling organizations in New England's history. So kind of start with that. Walk me through from there.
I have a motto in my life that has done pretty well for me. And when I put on my consultant hat, my real world consultant hat, if I was going to advise anybody, if they say, hey, I really want to start something, what should I do? My advice in life in general is, professionally or personally, number one, do what you love. If it's your passion and you can find a way to turn it into a career or monetize it, do what you love first. And I've been very fortunate. My family, I don't want to come into this sounding like I'm a self-starter. No, my family before me did really well. And it was a company called Undercoverware, and it did incredibly well. But at the end of the day, my family and I was fortunate enough that I got involved in that company. I was able to do what I loved in Undercoverware, meaning I was a public speaker. I was a corporate trainer. I tend to be a people person. I got to travel the company and hear people's stories, inspire them and help them build better lives for themselves. We did what we loved. Then Chaotic Wrestling. Yeah, 100%. I loved pro wrestling growing up. My dad and I, we used to watch it, Tuesday Night Titans and then All American Wrestling on Sundays. With me and Gene Okerlund. Somewhere along the way, as the story goes, I didn't know that there was independent wrestling. I didn't know it existed until somebody told me it did. And the first independent wrestling show I ever went to was one that I owned, because we started Chaotic Wrestling. And here's where the other part of my personality kicks in, is you find something you love, and then you just kind of become obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did with Chaotic, is if we're going to do it, I want to do it right. Because now motto number 2 of my life kicks in. If it's not fun or it's not profitable, why are you doing it? And that's key for me. In Chaotic Wrestling, it was kind of fun, but it sure in hell wasn't profitable at first. And that's when we decided, okay, we need to make a change. That's certainly a longer story for a longer day, but we built something. We built something there. When you talk about my personal collections, at one point, I think I had over 21,000 comic books. What was cool about that was I was different than other collectors. I've since encountered who have these incredible original art collections and these #1 copies and all this stuff. And I've thought to myself, I'm like, wow, do I suck as a collector? All of a sudden, I'm like, well, the difference with me was I can honestly say probably 95% of the comic books that I owned, I read at some point. I never collected to collect. I collected because I loved comics. I loved reading them. And then, yeah, it made sense. Okay, you throw them in a bag, you throw them in a box, and now you're a quote unquote collector. But I was almost more of like a reader who kept stuff. It's probably a more accurate description of me.
So it's interesting, right? You hit on something really big there. You get into something, you get this feeling of, oh, okay, now I'm going to be a collector in this area. And then you meet somebody that is a better collector than you could ever be when you're starting, typically. And that puts this weird little, well, I'm never going to do that, right? But what you chose to do instead was just go, you know what, screw it. I'm going to keep doing it, but I'm just going to do it what I like. That's interesting because there's a lot of people out there. If you notice, there's the Diamond Select type of statues, and then there are the PVC versions. I've got PVC things from Diamond Select, but you and I are kind of similar in this way. I don't care whether it's going to be worth something. I enjoy it, and that makes me happy, and that's actually the goal. So let's just keep going with it. You've had a lot of really exciting opportunities to create a network, but then you networked out of modeling, out of wrestling, into something else now too. Talk to me about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I've actually, for the past just about 3 years now, I've been with Prop Store. And it's a company out here in California, and they specialize in auctions of entertainment memorabilia. So props, costumes, set pieces, production pieces from television, movies, and they have entertainment memorabilia live auctions. that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. But you're talking, this is the high end stuff. When you see headlines of, Dorothy's ruby slippers sold for this, or a lightsaber sold for that, or Batman's suit sold for something else. That's what Prop Store does. And I was fortunate. I kind of just fell into it. I was out here. I've been doing my consulting thing, and then this Prop Store thing popped up, and it falls into what I said earlier.
Yeah, it's
I'd come out of a lingerie company. I'd come out of a lingerie company and a wrestling company. For a little while, I was doing consulting for like a medical, what was it? A startup pharmaceutical company, and then a medical device company. What it was like this little thing that would stick on a patient's hand that would secure the IV. And I got to tell you, wrestling, there's an old term. It's called pin me and pay me. But I had no passion for IV securement devices. Number one, needles completely grossed me out. When I went and got my flu shot on Saturday, I have to like turn and look away and look at my phone because I can't look at a needle. And I'm trying to sell IV securement devices or market IV securement devices. So it wasn't fulfilled. And then all of a sudden I saw this ad for Prop Store. They were hiring for a director of marketing, and holy crap, on the cover of their thing, I think it was at the time, it was Michael Keaton's bat suit and Han Solo's vest and shirt from, I think it was Empire. And I'm like, this is really cool. So I applied, and sure enough, I end up with Prop Store. And I've been very fortunate over the last 3 years to be able to see and hold and perform. I do all their social media videos. Some of the most iconic props and costumes in history. This last auction, I'm trying to think back what was in this one. Oh, we had Spider-Man's suit from Tobey Maguire's suit from Spider-Man 2, which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton's costume from Batman, but you name it. If you, we had the chainsaw from Evil Dead 2, Ash's Chainsaw. We had what's his name? The puppet Billy from an animatronic Billy puppet from Saw. I've seen dozens of wands, dozens of lightsabers, lots of batarangs. James Bond's guns.
You guys just sold a very famous lightsaber, from my understanding.
It's funny. We kind of say at Prop Store. I'll tell the story without saying what it was, but I had to go in on a Sunday, and I had to shoot some behind the scenes shots for socials. So I went in, and at one point I had to move locations in the building, and it was hot because a lot of times in these buildings on weekends AC shuts down, so it's just hot in the building. I had to go to a different location to shoot these, and so I literally grabbed a very expensive prop under one arm. I grabbed a very expensive costume piece, kind of did it like that. And just like this, I put my Dunks coffee like this, and I'm walking, and halfway there, I'm like, you a-hole, what are you doing? I literally had like $2.1 million worth of props in my hands. And I'm like, put down your freaking medium regular. And I'm like, but you lose concept.
Because
when
it's
you see
just every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I will say, most recently, with what you were making, you can see my little pretend Luke Skywalker lightsaber behind us. I would normally turn it on, but it makes a weird humming noise. It drives me nuts. But we actually sold, Prop Store found from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the screen matched hero dueling lightsaber of Darth Vader's from those two movies. So, scene where the hand gets cut off. No, I am your father. And then all the scenes in Jedi, it was the screen matched lightsaber hilt.
That is possibly the most iconic image of that specific lightsaber you will get.
100%.
Yeah.
And it sold at auction for $3.7 million.
That is amazing. Just to kind of, so there may be people out there that don't understand Prop Store, but there may be people out there that simply don't understand how props work, right? When a prop back in the day, okay, so back in the seas, this would have traveled with not only the movie, but then it would have went to both movies, right? It would have been at Empire,
correct,
went to Jedi, and then after that point, a lot of times these things just got lost. Is that my understanding?
The further back you go, the looser the structure was.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear stories of back in the 30s, 40s, 50s of actors and actresses just taking their stuff when they were done. There are famous stories of, if you track certain costumes, it might have been a costume in movie A, then it was reworked and shown again in movie B 12 years later because it just went back into Paramount or MGM's wardrobe department. And we're talking like iconic, legendary costumes. With the props, yeah, it's exactly what it was. Remember, movie productions, I've learned this since I've been out here, movie productions are much bigger than most of us can ever imagine. You're talking prop masters, assistant prop masters, prop assistants. Now actors assistants. And back before this became an industry, you know, there were times when it would be nothing for a prop master to say, oh yeah, I made this. Oh yeah, I made this.
It's mine.
Are we done with it? Cool. Not even it's mine. It's more of
Yeah.
a cool. We're done. All right, cool. I'll take it.
Pack it up in your stuff and go home. Yeah, absolutely.
Pack it up and go.
Funny story. I was just looking on Facebook Marketplace the other day, and the couch from Free Jack, Mick Jagger's couch from Free Jack,
Yep.
somebody just owns it. Like, and they're just trying to sell for 10 grand. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's basically what you're finding in these types of situations. Kind of like that WWE show, Hidden Treasures.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's kind of happened in the industry. And now what's starting to happen now is you and I were talking offline that you said, oh, if you ever see something from one of the more recent productions, studios have now tightened up on this. You know, now in this modern age, everything it's barcoded, it's scanned, it's inventoried. So things don't get out as often. And one thing we see happen even at prop stores, sometimes prop store will have something come out that we'll try to sell. And all of a sudden, here comes the studio saying, oh, no, that's ours.
But what happens in that
And-
situation? Because you guys bought it, right?
Now there's a negotiation. For most of prop stores auctions, the way it works is there are three parties to every transaction. Okay. There's a consignor. You own a lightsaber. Okay. You own a lightsaber. You call prop store and say, hey, I have this lightsaber. It might be worth some money. My uncle worked on Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
And we were cleaning out some storage bins in his attic and I found this. I think it might be worth something. Prop store then says, great. We will sell it in our next entertainment memorabilia live auction.
Okay.
And we're going to use nice, easy numbers here. Ready? So what we're going to say is, we estimate it's going to sell for about $100,000. Whoops. We're going to estimate that it sells for about $100,000. It now goes to auction and our good friend, Brian, buys it for $100,000. Okay. We have 90, we have 100, 100, we have 110. Going once, fair and final, sold for $100,000.
Most of the time, these are done. Well, not most of the time. Some of the times, these are done as an online auction that anybody, you, me, anybody can join.
Mhm.
Correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it's kind of weird. A lot of times there is a live auctioneer with an online component. And if you watch, I've started to do some of their live auctions. Actually, now it's all technology,
Yeah.
right? There are people in the room. You also have people online. There's a screen you're watching. It's really kind of fun to do it because it's super active. But now the way it works is, so that what we call the hammer price sold for $100,000. That's not what that person actually pays. They pay more. There's what's called a buyer's premium. And this is standard in any auction in any industry. For easy numbers again, we'll say it's 25%. So what our friend Brian is now going to pay is $125,000 for your lightsaber.
Okay.
With me so far?
So he's paying prop store's fee.
There you go.
Yep.
So now when it comes time, he writes the check. The company, the intermediary, the auction house, sends him his lightsaber. He sends the auction house a check for $125,000.
Okay.
The auction house is going to, for the majority of the time, the auction house is going to keep that full 25%. That's ours. That's our fee. So Simon, you're saying, okay, great. I still get my 100,000. Not necessarily. The auction house might also say, they might also charge you what we call a seller's fee, which can be anywhere from 5% to 20%. Now, here's where you get into the intricacies of the auction. And this is not prop store. This is any of the auction companies. It's not just memorabilia. Now what happens is savvy people negotiate. So if you know you have something that's worth a lot of money, and as crazy as it sounds in this industry, $100,000 is not a lot of money. If you know something, or maybe you're an experienced buyer and seller with us, maybe you've transacted with us before, you're going to say to prop store, I'm not giving you 20% of my half of my cut. I'm going to negotiate that down. So that seller's fee and that seller's premium, that buyer's premium, there's a negotiation between you and you're what we call the consignor. You are consigning that piece with us to sell, with the auction house to sell. So that's the negotiation between the consignor and the auction house, that buyer's premium and that seller's premium.
So I'm curious.
If you really, now the best part is, and this is a super rarity, if you really had something, a one-of-a-kind item, and this Vader lightsaber would be a great example. And I will be honest, I'm not trying to speak. I don't know the financials of prop store. I don't know what gets negotiated. I'm talking about how the system works. But if you had a one-of-a-kind item and multiple auction houses were interested in it, might even start saying, okay, not only aren't I giving you a seller's premium, I want 5% of your buyer's premium too.
When you guys list and I will cut this out if it is something out of school, but when you guys list something as, okay, it's sold for $3.5 million, right? Does that include not only the buyer paying the money, but all of the fees that are on top of that as well?
There's always an asterisk. If you look at one of the first things that was ingrained in me at Prop Store was anytime we would do a social post where we would quote a price, somewhere in there you'll always see an asterisk or parentheses that say Inc. BP includes buyer's premium.
Got it. Perfect. That I was curious about that because paying $3.5 million for something, I mean, like what we're talking about, like that lightsaber, amazing. I could definitely see that. But knowing that it actually probably costs less than that and that those fees are around it, that makes it feel more attainable, I guess, from a human standpoint, from somebody that doesn't have the billions of dollars. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that works because that would be awesome to have something $3.5 million in value, but that you didn't pay that for. So that's cool. That's a very interesting way of not only creating the nostalgia, but then monetizing the one of a kindness of it. I like
it's a fascinating industry. And as I've been in it for a little while, just getting to know some of the collectors, getting to know some of the consigners, it truly is fascinating. We can talk Indiana Jones, another one of my favorite franchises.
Yep.
But I've learned with Indiana Jones collectors, there's the holy trinity of what they want. It's a hat, it's a whip, and it's a jacket. Okay. If you can get a shirt, that's a great little fourth piece, right? But really those are the three pieces you want. A lot of these wealthy Indiana Jones collectors, they've got the pieces now. They've got a hat, they've got a whip, they've got a jacket. But what they want is all of them from the same movie now. So if I have a hat and a jacket from Last Crusade, but I have the whip from Temple of Doom, now what I want to do is I really want that whip from Last Crusade.
You want to be able to trade that. And
I want to be able to say I have all three.
Well, let's also make sure that, people understand there's going to be multiples of each of these products throughout the movies too. So we're not just talking about one whip that came from Last Crusade, blah, blah, blah. They have, how many is on average, would you say, of any given prop are there out there?
It depends. Again, the more modern.
Okay. Hundreds of
there
them.
There tend to be more. Remember the Darth Vader lightsaber we just talked about, there was only one. Because why did they use it for two? If you look at it, it was actually, and I learned so much about it. It's actually one behind me. It's actually what it was based on because it's the same blade style, but it was actually built on an old camera flash component. That was the core of it. Then they built the other stuff. And if you looked at it, I'm sure we'll pop a picture up. If you look at the picture, there's a little thing coming up, and that's where they would stick the piece on there that allowed them to duel. That was a completely separate piece. They don't really light up. That's all. Yeah. Post-production.
They just yeah.
But for that, remember, even though Star Wars was super popular back then, no, they didn't budget to make 10 of them. Yeah. It was okay. Here's Vader's lightsaber. It would probably go in a case at the end of the day. And then when Jedi came around, they probably just storage unit, go back in, pull it all up. And here we go again.
This is, I mean,
Indiana Jones whips. Now whips, I will tell. God, we're doing deep dive on how props work now.
It works.
Whips are different because not only do you have multiple versions, right? Multiple uses. Prop Store just sold one of their last auction from Indiana Jones Last Crusade. Super unique because it was the first time we had seen one with a belt and a whip holster on it. So it had a little metal, little leather loop that held the whip. That whip, if I remember, I think it was 9 feet long. And because of the way it was built, 9 feet on a holster, more than likely, that was only used for scenes when he was walking around with the whip on his hip. Okay. There were little wire ties on it, more than likely. It was not one that was ever unraveled and actually used.
Yep.
Because if they want that one, just look at the movie. It's probably a good 12-foot whip when he's doing whipping scenes. So you have different whips for different scenes.
Different types of scenes.
You see this with some phraseology. You'll see phrases like screen match, hero, stunt, swords. Great example. If any of my influencers who watch this, they'll know Jamie's favorite phrase when I do prop store tours. If it looks heavy, it's light. If it looks light, it's heavy. Swords are a great example. I could line up 10 swords and they all will look exactly like real swords. 3 of them will be super heavy, made of metal, right? Others are stunt swords, super light, almost resin or foam. You can't tell the difference looking at them, but one is for, scenes where they actually have to be used. And if it's a hero sword, that means, screen match hero is what you're going for. Screen match hero is, we found ways to identify it using marks on it, matches the prop in the hand, used on screen by a lead character.
Okay.
That's a screen match hero sword. So I'm going to go Pirates of the Caribbean for a minute. One of my favorite franchises. Jack Sparrow. If we had his sword, screen match hero sword, that's Jack Sparrow's sword. What that's probably going to be is going to be a heavier sword that's used in a scene where he needs to show that it has weight to it.
So
maybe that's when he draws it out. He's holding it. That's his hero sword. As versus when he's walking around in costume for 9 hours on set, that's not the sword you want hanging on your hip all day. So they'll put in a stunt sword.
As a,
That
you know,
might
you don't
be
think
made
about
out of
those
resin.
tiny. You don't think about those tiny little things, but those are huge differences. And I would assume that's thousands of dollars of difference.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what, again, I joked with you earlier. I've seen so many lightsabers in my time at Prop Store that it becomes almost comical. I've been very fortunate. I helped launch what we call the influencer program. So we do influencer days. We have all these, they're great content creators, influencers come in. And what's great is they're still fans. I also think that sometimes when you truly become a collector, I think you start to lose your excitement in your fandom. And I found that happening. Like I said, to be a prop store, I never thought that I would be rolling my eyes when I get asked by somebody, whose lightsaber is that? I don't know.
Somebody's.
Jace Wagyu. I literally don't know.
It's funny, you know, in pro wrestling, they say don't go behind the curtain, right? Because you're going to lose something. And I can definitely see that being very similar here, right? You're going behind the curtain of your favorite movies, your props, your favorite experiences, and then you're seeing it every day. Like you told the story original with your coffee. I mean, it just becomes as easy as carrying your coffee down the hallway. I get it.
Yeah. And that's all about the content creators and influencers. I'll tell you my favorite story. Then we can move off of this, but we had in this last one, we had a flight suit from The Force Awakens, and we work with one influencer, Carly King. Love Carly, and she came in and she was with the Brandon Allinger, the COO of Prop Store. And Brandon has literally written books on the costumes of Prop Store, costumes of Star Wars. Excuse me. So I'd been working a lot. I'd been doing a lot of these events, and kind of where the display room was set up, we had constructions. We're in a different area, so I can hear Carly and Brandon in the display room. I'm literally around the bend off camera, laying down on a couch because I'm old and I'm tired and I'm just laying there. And I kind of hear them, and I have this weird ability to recall, like, I don't remember last Tuesday, but if you said to me, walk you around mentally the display room from 3 auctions ago, I remember where everything was. So I can hear them working their way around. They get to the flight suit, and all of a sudden, I hear them start talking about, if you look on the left shoulder, on the vest, there was some writing in what's the Star Wars language.
Okay, Arabish.
There's some Arabish writing. And all of a sudden I hear these two start to translate it. And Carly's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into, and it said, hold to inflate. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. And but then Brandon's like, but wait a minute, it's upside down on the vest. Why would it be upside down? And I'm around the corner. I'm like, quote, I'm like, oh my God, will you two nerds stop talking about this? But no, they were both, Carly, because she's still a fan, was so excited. And they figured it out. The reason it's upside down?
You gotta look down.
Because if you're a pilot, you look down, you want to, and here's Brandon, who's one of the foremost Star Wars collectors, expert on Star Wars costumes, learned something new with Carly that day because she's still a mega fan. And she saw it like that. And it was a point of interest. Whereas we were just kind of like, it's another flight suit. There's writing there.
Yeah.
What's it worth? What's our low estimate? What are we hoping to sell it for?
But that's the kind of detail that when you can really come out and explain, that's the level of detail the costume designers put into that. That's huge. I mean, that makes a ton of sense, and it gives value to the actual product as well. So I'm curious, you know, we've talked about props here a lot. You've talked about, you know, some of your favorite props. You mentioned that they had the Batman prop. Behind you, you have a Starro. Yes. Now, is that a prop?
Yes, that's a real Starro mask from the Suicide Squad.
It's on a head. Talk to me. Like, what is this? Is it like, is this something you got of your own?
I got this from somebody. I got this through Prop Store. It's actually one of the Star masks.
Okay.
You look, it actually comes off.
And this is from Suicide Squad.
Yeah. You look.
And this
that's the back. Yeah. This one's number 215.
Okay.
Inside.
Okay.
But it's actually made to fit over someone's head. You can kind of see their little mesh holes where the extra can see through it. Yeah.
And that that is something that you were able to get. Now, I would, if I worked for Prop Store, I wouldn't have a salary. I would just keep giving it back. So, like, how do you avoid that? Because it seems you came home with at least something really cool, but I mean, that's got to be something that you're avoiding at all costs.
Yeah, that was one of the things my wife Cheryl actually said when I took the job. She said, "I want to be clear about something. You need to tell them that they make sure they have to pay you in money, not in props."
Yeah, not in props.
In money, not in props. My other favorite possession I have that I also got through props, so I'm not sure if you can quite see it. There he is. If you look over in the corner on the wall,
okay,
that's Geronimo. That's from the set of Cheers.
Really?
That was in the background of Cheers. In the very last scene, that used to hang in the actor who played Coach. That used to hang in his dressing room. And then when he passed away, they moved to the back. And in the last scene of Cheers, you see Sam actually adjust it. You see Sam Malone adjust it, and then he moves on, and that's it.
That is awesome.
And again, that's my rule. If anybody wants collecting advice, what we tell everybody, you hear all the sexy numbers like 3.7 million lightsabers. Look, that stuff's rare. If anybody were to start collecting now, I would tell you exactly what I said earlier. Collect what you love. Don't worry about what it's going to be worth down the road. Look, I don't know if the Star Wars mask was a gift from somebody because of my work at Prop Store. I have, what should we call it? I have Geronimo in the background. At home, one of my favorite movies, oddly enough, is the Tom Hanks movie, That Thing You Do.
Okay, yep.
Love that movie. I have 2 of the 45s from That Thing You Do.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
And you know what? I will tell you, I'm willing to bet anybody that's not going to go up in value. I'm never going to sell my 2 That Thing You Do 45s for $3.7 billion. But I love the movie.
And it's a great freaking movie. That's a fantastic movie. I love that movie too. When we're talking about the Starro behind you, Peacemaker. Now we've got Peacemaker that just started season 2. I was a huge fan of season 1. Do you mind if I rant about something here for a few seconds?
Please do.
So I was a huge fan of the opening scene, Peacemaker. They've got the weird dancing. It was just rocking his music. In the past, that was a great theme. Jamie, how do you feel about this new theme? I mean, what are your thoughts about the new opening intro? I have some thoughts, so I'm going to rant real fast.
You do. It's fine. It's fine. I so associated Peacemaker with the old one that I don't know why they didn't just use the old music again. The only thing I did notice, because I think I might be one episode behind. I think I've only watched 2 or 3. Only thing I'm wondering is I haven't Googled what the new music is. Therefore, I haven't Googled the lyrics. Do the lyrics tie in more to their theme this season?
Yeah. Well, apparently, this is Foxy Shazam. So Foxy Shazam's song, Oh Lord, I think it's called. But essentially what it is James Gunn heard this song by Foxy Shazam. He said, I absolutely have to have this. It encompasses what I'm doing on an artistic level, blah, 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 right? And we're going to talk about James Gunn when we talk about Superman, and I get it. And I'm even more angry now because at first I thought it was a rib on me, Jamie, when they started. Yeah, legit. I thought somebody was like, hey, we're going to mess with him. Matched the energy of the show, in my opinion. This new thing, the first lyric of it is Julian, and it's the name of Foxy Shazam's kid. Now, I don't care what an artist does with their art. But if the first word of a song, if it just said Julian, right? And that's how it does it. First of all, nobody in the fucking show is even named Julian. What does that mean, right? So that got me off to a real bad start. But then I started listening to James Gunn walk through why, and he says, as it goes, as this season goes, you will understand more what's going on and why the interaction is there. So I'm hoping it's going to be a really good story that covers up the absolute dog shit song they chose for this freaking.
Oh,
I hate the first time I've ever told my Spotify to not play an artist. I said, no, I don't ever want to hear.
Really?
Yes. I hate that song.
Well, I will be on. I was not that invested. My reaction was they changed the song. Meh. I didn't really.
I thought it was going to be a rib and they were going to come out like episode 2 and be like, no, that was a different reality. Like I was legitimately like, what is this song? Where does this even come from? It's very, for lack of a better term, it's very pompous and like, hey, look at me. That's the way I feel like that song is. And maybe it matches what's supposed to happen.
I'm going to have to watch more closely now because I'll be honest, I didn't have that much of an opinion on it.
the first season, they talked about that opening dance of peace. And what they were talking about was just how it's very awkward and very, that I thought matched the show very well. I think this season, the person that they put in charge of that, if you're asking me, my opinion, was very much so happy with herself in season 1. And they were, oh, you're amazing. And she was like, I'm going to make something even crazier and more wild in season 2. So I don't know. There's a lot of artsy fartsy bullshit.
It's unfortunate that, for that one. And another example is, do you watch Wednesday?
I have seen a couple of episodes.
Same thing. They had something that virally hit in season 1. It was her dance.
Mm-hmm.
And now season 2, all of a sudden it must be tough to be in that position, because I think all of a sudden you're like, shit,
we got to make another dance.
We better come up with another dance. And I will say, I think the season 2 dance was probably a little bit more underwhelming, but it was saved by the fact they got the immortal Lady Gaga to write a new song for it. But now you start to wonder, okay, they're doing a season 3.
What are they going to do now?
Peacemaker and Wednesday. Okay, are you going to just try to keep
every year?
Yourself?
Yeah,
right. It's weird that when you, I think for all of these things now, your goal is in this day and age, your goal is always to have something go viral with whatever you do. But now the challenge is that when that happens, now you got to do it again. And I think that's where it must become so tough. Sometimes when you do the best thing, how do you top your best?
Can we talk about James Gunn for a second? So James Gunn has been a little bit under fire from the Superman, right? Because people say that there was some woke and there's a lot of political feeling about it. Yeah. Regardless of that, looking at James Gunn from his experiences and the movies that I see from James Gunn, right? Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3. We've got fantastic, artsy, colorful movies that also bring in music. In my opinion, Peacemaker is the perfect canvas for James Gunn. James Gunn is taking a very dark concept, and he's great at this, taking very dark concepts, dark, deep stories from characters, and lightening them with comedy to make it an enjoyable experience. And man, is Peacemaker dark, right? That gets very dark. Then we go to Superman. I mean, let's switch over to Superman. If you ask me today, after seeing Superman, my thoughts on it, my thoughts are very simple. That is the most James Gunn movie James Gunn has ever made. And James Gunn didn't make a Superman movie. James Gunn made an action comics movie. That, in my opinion, that's not a Superman movie. That movie was a platform for multiple other characters to get over. It was a platform for him to show Superman as a thing and say, this is what you expect Superman as, but here's some really interesting characters you might want to see in the future. I think that's what his total goal was. I think that when the studio signed him up for it, that's what they asked him for. And now everybody is kind of looking at it like, I don't know, are they considering it a failure now? Are they considering it a success? What are your thoughts? I thought that it was considered a pretty good success, but that people don't liking the new universe.
First of all, I love that movie. I think it was the best Superman movie we've seen since arguably Christopher Reeve.
Okay.
Although I liked Superman Returns with Brandon Routh as a sequel to Superman 2.
Okay.
But that's another story for another day. I love that movie. I think James Gunn has been tasked with building a universe. He has a vision for the universe. And everybody celebrated, I can never say his last name, but Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody celebrated him of how he built the Marvel universe. And I will go on record and say, I still believe Endgame is the greatest payoff of a series of movies in history. And I will die on that hill. You can argue with me about trilogies or quadruples or quintuples, but the fact that he took, 18 movies and paid them all off in Endgame, incredible.
I like that because it sounds like what you're saying is, regardless of some falters, right? Overarching, his vision was created and flourished, and that was what you expected to see and what you really wanted to see. Now, you don't have problems. I'm assuming you do see some of the plot holes and some of the issues with the time thing, and like that bothers you in little ways, or no? Does that not bother you at all?
Does not bother me at all.
Okay. Talk to me. Yeah.
No. Again, I'm a firm believer in willing suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
I think it was amazing. What everybody forgets, though, is go back to 2008, right? I think 2007, 2008. Think where he started it. I have news for everybody, again, because I'm old enough. Iron Man was not a cornerstone of the Marvel Universe. He started that universe with a secondary character. I could argue he didn't have access to the three biggest pieces of the Marvel Universe, which were Spider-Man, X-Men, and Fantastic Four.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, there's
He
no
didn't have
argument
them.
with that. Yeah.
So he was able to build that universe using really a level B character, Iron Man.
People don't think
I would
about
argue,
that.
but go back in time.
If we were
Iron Man
in that time period, X-Men was number one,
Yeah.
and the Avengers were somewhere down here. The Avengers
Correct.
weren't talked about. So yeah, you're absolutely right. He had to come in and build the secondary team, and he did it.
Only A-lister I think you could argue would be Captain America. He was an unused character. But
That movie flopped
So-
too, right? Remember, that's widely considered. Most people hated that movie.
I love that movie too.
I did
Anyway,
too.
So he was able to build, again, they built it so differently. And again, the third person we'll bring into this all now is Zack Snyder, who was originally tasked with the DC universe. But if you look at it, Feige built it using all these other characters, and then he built that foundation and then was able to build from there into this epic endgame. DC had a different approach. They said, we're going to use our holy trinity. We're going to use our trinity. We're going to use Super, Batman, Wonder Woman. And I guess Zack Snyder also had a vision. I'm not a big Zack Snyder guy, not going to lie. I didn't like his universe. I didn't like the direction it was going. Probably glad it wrapped up the way it did. With a fizzle, not a bang.
Okay. So the Zack Snyder universe, not really your bag of tricks there. But when it came to the actual Superman movies, the Justice League movies, what were your thoughts on those?
They were awful.
Really?
I will go
Okay.
on record, and this is a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
We'll do
no,
a Zack
thank you.
Snyder episode.
Yeah.
I think Man of Steel is one of the worst movies ever made.
Okay.
And then they made Batman versus Superman. So now I think it's like the silver of worst movies ever made.
So let's get back to Superman 2025.
So now brings us all the way back to James Gunn. You said Guardians of the Galaxy. They weren't even B-listers.
Not
They
even.
were D.
I went to that movie under duress. Like quite literally, I went to that movie because there was a cute raccoon on the TV that somebody else wanted to see. It wasn't at a tree, you know? I was like, okay, fine, we'll go.
So I think my gut instinct, what he's doing is, okay, he knows he's got the heavy hitters. He knows he's got the Supermans, the Batmans, all those. But I think he probably learned under the Feige system of, no, build the universe first,
Yeah.
right? And then your bigger characters matter more. I think one of the challenges is when you have what do you do with a character like Superman? He's the strongest. He's the fastest. He's the goodest. He's the wholesomest. He's the hopiest. He's the ultimate. So I think one of the challenges has been, how do you tell that story when he's everything? And I think what Feige's doing is he's like, let me build the foundation of the rest of this universe.
Yeah.
And now I can make Superman stand out. Our good friend Matt Spectro, he and I have always agreed there are three things we never want to see on our screen again. I don't ever want to see Uncle Ben getting shot, Uncle Ben dying, the
Okay.
Waynes getting shot in an alley, or Krypton exploding.
Yeah,
Because
that's fair.
we both feel if you're going to one of these movies, I don't need origin movies for Spider-Man, Superman, or Batman anymore.
At this point, we
If you're
shouldn't
going to that movie and you don't know why Batman's Batman, why are you going to see this movie? You think it's a vampire movie? You need to see this? We all know.
Yeah, what do you love bats? What
No, no.
happened? No.
So even recently, what was it? The Batman. He's early in his career, but he's already Batman. We don't need backstory. Michael Keaton. I know they did flashbacks, but the first scene is he's hunting criminals. Batman's already established.
Yes. Yep.
In this one, Superman's already established, right? I thought his intro was fantastic when it was, he told his story of how he's setting up his whole universe. What was it? 3,000 years ago, the first metahuman appeared. 300 years ago, something happened. 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Now we get to where we are. Very quickly, it took 5 paragraphs. Yeah. Understood. Yep.
They exist. Nobody's shocked by flying men or anything else.
I'm wondering when it comes to this specific movie, right? And, I mentioned that it was more of an action comics movie. There was a lot of politics around it. Give me your thoughts when it comes to the politics around it. What did you think? What were your thoughts about that when, you go into this movie? I know we both saw it 2-3 weeks afterward, and all of these people are talking about how, there was all the stuff in society about it. What are your thoughts about that?
I think people just want to read into way too much stuff anymore. I'll be honest. I feel like you see that with everything now. And I guess, could you? I guess so. I
Yeah.
mean, we could probably, I don't think that in hindsight, George Lucas was making some huge political statement with Star Wars. Okay. But I guarantee you, if Star Wars came out today, right, you would have people saying that, oh, it's a left-wing liberalist movie because it talks about the downtrodden farmers, and the bad guy soldiers are literally named stormtroopers, which is a Nazi reference, and they're fighting back. And that's what people would do. And sometimes it's just
Absolutely.
like, no, we're just trying to tell a story.
Yeah, we're just telling Superman's story.
Right. It's Superman's story.
Pointing out a very good point you made to start. Superman is a character that, what the hell can the main enemy in that be? If it's not Zod and it's not Doomsday, what can it be to get 2 hours out of it? And the truth of the matter is, I feel like he did exactly what he needed to do in this. This was a very insecure Lex Luthor. Would you agree with that?
Well, wait a minute. I'm gonna argue this.
Okay.
No, that is Lex Luthor.
Really? So
Yeah.
I thought this
Lex
was a
Luthor's
very
entire
insecure...
existence is no. Lex Luthor's entire existence is based on insecurity. Is why is the alien celebrated more than me, who's a man? That's his entire thing.
Oof. Okay. So I've always seen Lex Luthor as, he gets a bunch of money and he sees that there is a problem. That alien has the opportunity to hurt us. And I've always seen him as the Iron Man gone too far, saying, I know that I can put a coat of armor around us, and that's what he's trying to do. See, from my perspective, he's done everything he can intelligently to do that. This Lex Luthor was quite literally just enslaving and murdering people. Like, that's the Joker. That, to my opinion, that's not Lex Luthor, that's the Joker. Joker murders and is more of that. Lex is more, I will make a plan that, yeah, mass genocide might happen, but on the other side of that, he's not doing it with his own hand, so to speak.
I will give you the imprisonment and all of that, but
yeah,
I don't know. See, I view Lex very differently. I view it as, no, I'm gonna back my own statement. No, I think Lex Luthor, if you go back historically,
okay,
originally he and Superman were best friends in Smallville way back when. He did an experiment. Superman came in. Experiment caught on fire. God, I'm such a nerd. Caught on fire. Superboy comes in, blows it out. Chemicals hit him, and he loses all of his hair. And ever since that day, he hated his former best friend.
I recognize that, but I thought that was, again, that was, when I'm looking at that from the perspective of something that the alien did damaged him, and now he wants to protect the Earth from that. I see him as a very...
I don't think he wants to protect the Earth at all. No.
Okay.
No.
That's fair.
He wants to be he wants to be respected and admired the way Superman is. I think that's his driving force.
In that instance,
he's the ultimate heel.
But on the other side of that, he's enslaving his ex-girlfriends. That's a little... Right? No, you think that would be the case too?
Because remember, she spoke out against him, right? Didn't she write a blog?
Well, that one did, but I'm talking about the one before that just told him that she didn't like he had some girl in there that he just didn't like him. She didn't speak out.
Which by definition, then, she didn't respect and she didn't admire him.
Fair enough. So he locked her up.
Because to your theory, no, I think if you go back, and I'm trying to think back on other Lex Luthors. I can't think of one portrayal of Lex Luthor where his goal is to protect anybody. His goal is to destroy Superman.
Gene Hackman I saw as Greed, right? And I agreed with that. I'm like, cool, Greed works for me, right? But he was not, I didn't see Gene Hackman as being insecure in that role. His portrayal of the character was, he felt he was an equal to Superman in everything other than power, like the physical power that Superman has. So like that is what I've always seen as the quintessential Lex Luthor sees his intellect as his superpower and the brawn as Superman's superpower, and he does not see any different between those two. That's what I've always seen. But yeah, so now, okay, let's keep moving on through the movie then, because now I loved that he was dealing with things that as a person, as an adult, I can think of and go, yeah, I've been in that position. And in that position, if I had ultimate power, what would I have done? Would I just stop it? Would I grab that guy and shake him around a little bit and tell him to cut his shit? And that's exactly what they were portraying Superman as having done. They're saying he had some balls. So, like, he's got the balls, but he's still young and new and he doesn't know where the line is. I like that. I like the concept of a Superman that simply doesn't know where the line is yet, but he's trying real hard. I think that's the defining factor between Batman and Superman, in my opinion.
Again, now we'll go deep into my geekdom here. It goes back to the DC Trinity and what do they all represent. And I'm not going to get into why this bothers me about Zack Snyder, but I'm going to touch on it. At the end of the day, Superman represents hope. That's what he's designed to do. He represents hope. Batman represents justice. Wonder Woman, I've heard two different theories. The general theory is that she represents compassion. I've always felt that she represents the balance between the two. She was sent to man's world to bring peace, but she will use force to bring about said peace. So she's kind of the balance between the two. And I think if you look at more modern DC storytelling, that's the key. You can simplify it. Superman's light, Batman's dark. He's hope, he's justice. And that's what creates that balance with her in the middle of understanding both sides. There have been stories where, as we've seen in comics, where she has killed when necessary. She won't hesitate to kill if she has to. But at the end of the day, she also has peace and compassion in her heart. What I liked about this Superman was, I think he does represent hope. And I think part of that is that lack of understanding then of why would someone choose to be evil? Meaning that dictator in whatever the hell the made up country was. I think part of that is it's like, okay, why? And if I represent hope and I have the ability to create a better world, then yes, I'm going to take those steps. I did like that about the new movie.
Yeah, a lot of art imitate. I think the political leaning, quote unquote, of the movie isn't political leaning. It's just in a society today where it's so hard to tell whether you're going too far in the pursuit of justice or pursuit of hope or whatever that is.
Right.
We're living in a society today where I genuinely believe that we're having a hard time seeing where that line is. And this Superman showed that very, very distinctly. And I think that that's a hard thing for people to see sometimes when they see it that blatantly.
What ticks me off is, again, this talks about our just current societal landscape. They didn't tell a new story.
No.
Everybody wants to compare it to, what is it, Russia and the Ukraine. A big despot picking on a little country. And Superman steps in.
Yeah.
Right, to put an end to it. We've seen this story a million times before in a million other movies, but now today it has to become politicized. And that's what bothers me. I mean, you have it, like, as you said, where's the line?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Captain America, First Avenger, technically they weren't, were they technically Nazis in that movie, or was it an offshoot of the Nazis, right? It was.
It's Hydra. So Marvel used Nazis, but they didn't, it's Hydra. Yeah.
If I remember,
they're Nazis.
Hydra, if I remember from the way they set up the movie, like Hydra was almost a worse offshoot than the Nazis. Like, the Nazis were like, no, you're too evil for us. It's like, wait, what? How? But okay.
It was, again, Hydra was technically supposed to be Hitler's secret force.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then, but Indiana Jones, he fought Nazis.
My whole life, Jamie, my entire life, it's been okay to hit one person, one group of people. That's it. My whole life. It's Nazis. That's it. So, like, I don't have a very, for me, I don't feel like it's even wild. Yeah.
But even now we take it to the next step. Now we're going to talk about, like, let's go to the next round. Star Wars is just the easy layout. Evil Empire, Rebellion. I guarantee you, if that came out today, there would be idiots on social media trying to say that George Lucas created this to speak out against the government. It's
100%.
like, no, he'll tell you himself. What did he base it on? The old Seven Samurai movies. It's like, these are stories that they get told over and over again.
Yeah.
Not everything has to have a message. I think what you do as a filmmaker, and maybe James Gunn did this, was, use a situation that might resonate with people. You have to update these stories. One thing I did like about the Superman movie, again, I don't mind James Gunn's little throwaway in jokes. Some people hated the infinite monkeys on infinite computers doing social media. I love that in joke. That's just a throwback to the old saying of, if you give an infinite number of monkeys an infinite number of typewriters, sooner or later, one of them will write the entire works of Shakespeare. Right. And that's what they did. I did like the way they used social media was the platform he used to take Superman down. Again, that's a modern retelling of, if you wanted to take down a hero in this day and age,
It's exactly what you do.
how would it probably happen? It would happen on social media. It would have stuff trend and go viral, and that's how you take them down.
And that's kind of where we're at in our world too. I think that that's the hardest part of watching that movie is, you know, some political pundits and people speculate that we're actually in the middle of World War III. It's just being fought differently, right? It's being fought in the cyber world. And in 10 years, 15 years, we're going to recognize this as being World War III. And the reality is, you're exactly right. That is exactly how you would fight a war in 2025, 2030. You would fight it online. You would fight it with you know, just mass hysteria and things of that nature. When it comes to the Justice Gang, what are your thoughts?
I think I think James Gunn was in a tough spot. Can't use Justice League for obvious reasons, right? Because there's a little bit of a stain on the Justice League right now.
Yeah.
You can't use Justice Society. For me, is a little different. So really what he uses, he used the old, who was it? Busick and Giffen, Justice League International.
Yeah. Yep.
That's really who they use there. It was a variation of that. They just used Justice Gang as a throwaway, as a catch-all. You know, I have thoughts about that whole group now based on Peacemaker.
Because you've seen the episode that they're in
episode
so
one.
far. Yeah. Yep.
And it's one thing, like I liked them in the movie. In Superman, Guy Gardner traditionally, he's always kind of been an a-hole. That's been his gimmick in the DC comics, right? He's the a-hole Green Lantern. What I didn't love about Peacemaker was they were all a-holes.
Yeah,
That scene when they were auditioning people and they, you know, White Rabbit leaves crying, and then they're just such total dicks to him.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't love. Is what my fear is in Zack Snyder's universe, where everybody was dark and brooding and moody, right? What I hope we don't get in James Gunn's universe is where everybody's kind of shitty and snarky.
Yeah, a couple of things that I think are going to happen here. So, and I picked up on that. I have a different opinion on that. So I like that they are taking Guy Gardner, the Justice Gang, and making them a little bit kind of snarky and assholic. Because when Superman then forms the Justice League, because we know that's what's going to end up happening, he's going to take over the Justice League. It will show that you can take this ragtag group of kind of assholes, but even they see hope and recognize hope from that. It makes Superman more powerful to have them be dickier, I guess, right now, in my opinion. On the other side of that, I love that Hawkgirl is not here with Hawkeye or with Hawkman. Right?
Yeah, Hawkeye.
Because one of the things Melissa was like is who's this, right? My wife was like, who the hell is this? And I'm like, well, this is Hawkgirl. And she's like, I've never heard of any of this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're used to hearing stories. I'm like, you know Hawkman, right? And she's like, yeah, you got a poster. Like, you're used to hearing stories where he gets told first and then she gets brought in as his accomplice or as a sidekick. This is a love story, but we're seeing kind of the bitchy, not likable lady to start. That's a flip on it. You know what I mean? I like that. Maybe he'll come in, he'll have some sort of softening agent that softens her up. When it comes to Guy Gardner, and you know me with the Green Lantern, so I was very happy with Nathan Fillion being put in the Guy Gardner position. And frankly, I think that is a great position for him now. You can't do Hal Jordan because of the crappy movie 10 years ago or whatever. Even Ryan Reynolds is avoiding that stuff. So use your go to your advantage. If your advantage is to take a Nathan Fillion, create a whole new guy, you know, character that people really didn't know, and then you can take and bring in Jon Stewart, who will be a very, very good buddy cop to him. I believe what they're going to do is they're going to take that show on HBO that they're doing, the Green Lantern show, and make it a buddy cop show. In that case, that's a fantastic foil. You know what I mean? That's a perfect asshole detective to go with the Jon Stewart hero detective. I love that. Mr. Terrific surprised me. I was not expecting, and in the movie itself, when I was sitting there, I was saying to myself, oh, they couldn't use Batman. So, but when I left, and we've seen it again now, we've watched it again, you know, after I've kind of watched it, he as a character, he's not Batman. He's different. He's Tony Stark, but doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like he and who knows why how he's got all the technology, but he felt like Batman, being very broody and dark and all that stuff. And then I felt differently. So I've changed my opinion on Mr. Terrific. When I left the theater, when I originally saw it, I was saying to myself, they just couldn't use Batman, so they threw in this guy, right? That sucked. But seeing him again and watching the way he's and then in Peacemaker, he did have some more interactions. I felt like they did a good job creating a character from something you recognized and making him feel very familiar without making him feel derivative, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Terrific's kind of one of those characters who's evolved and emerged. He's an old character, but he kind of first came out on, was it Arrow or Supergirl, the CW series? One of those shows, one of the CW series. They had their version of Mr. Terrific, who similar, not as brooding in this one. I think what you saw, and I think you hit the nail on the head, is what he's doing is he's setting itself up for how do you make your big three, or I guess if you want to talk the big seven, the Justice League, but how do you take your top people and show that they're your top people? You establish these mid-tier people first. So there's a level of comparison. Yeah. Again, one of the problems is if you lead in with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and then arguably Aquaman, Flash, if you bang out with your Justice League, where do you go from there? You've banged in with your best guys.
Well, that's what they did.
Right.
I mean, we literally saw them do that 10 years ago, and then they didn't have anything left, and then all their actors got too old. I mean, that's exactly what fucking happened. What do you do now?
So at least now, and again, I don't know where he's going with this. To your point, does something happen where Superman inspires them to be better? Or is this going to be a situation where these ragtag heroes kind of get their asses kicked somewhere along the way? And all of a sudden there's a threat that's so big that you need your big guns to come in. And it's established where, okay, if
that's
a Doomsday Superman or a Brainiac or whomever, a Darkseid tears through these guys, okay, then who do you need?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
well, we've been an hour and a half. I got plenty of stuff here.
Yeah. Well, I know.
How you feel?
I think this is a good first run.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll put on a closer. I'll get us some stuff going on here. Anything you want to close out with before we finish up?
Okay, let's throw in one more thing. This might be a good little ending. Ready? So I'll just ask you. All right. So before we wrap up and go away, I got a question for you in the next week or two before we talk again. What are you watching these days? What are you watching? Anything good?
So yes, I got a couple that I am really into, not just superhero stuff. So you and I are also fans of reality TV. And the $1 Million Secret is my new, like, what the fuck? Like, I love the $1 Million Secret. Okay. Yeah. So I was watching Traders. Traders was a huge, and I've watched every version, Australia, Europe, all of the thing. But I like this a little bit better. I like the $1 Million Secret a little bit better because, number one, if they beat the person, it moves on to somebody else. So there's a lot less chances for you to, like, it feels like they could actually win at the end of the episode instead of now we're going to go to the next episode and we're just moving. It feels like they did something. When they found a traitor in Traders, it didn't really feel like they put a damper on the parade most of the time. This is like, ooh, you figured it out. And in this, the only issue I have is they're all lying to each other and they know they're lying to each other, but then they get mad at each other for lying to each other. I don't understand that in these games.
All right, so $1 Million Secret. I got to check this one out.
Okay. 2, on Peacock, Poker Face. Possibly the best show on
Poker Face.
Yep, possibly the best show.
Yep.
Season 2 is out of Poker Face. I absolutely love it.
Little fun fact on Poker Face.
Okay.
If anybody out here happens to be hanging around Malibu or Santa Monica and they see my daughter wandering around in a leather jacket, that's actually Natasha Lyonne's jacket from season 1 of Poker Face.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did an auction with the Costume Designers Guild, and it was up for auction. We got it. I got it for not a lot of money, for a decent price. And my daughter's so funny. She's like, "Should I save it?" I'm like, "I'll be honest with you. I don't see that going up in value. I think you're much better off wearing it out and having a cool story to tell people than it's Natasha Lyonne's jacket." So yeah.
What about you? What are you watching now?
Yeah, so we're getting into the dark. We're coming out of the dark days of Jamie's TV viewing because a lot of the summer shows have ended and a lot of my fall shows haven't started. But I don't know if you know this about me. You know, I am like addicted to food shows. You know, I'm addicted to the Food Network.
Oh yes. Yes, we've talked about Is It Cake? We've had some conversations about Is It Cake? Okay.
But the one I will tell you that I just finished watching, if you haven't watched it, also on Peacock, have you watched Twisted Metal yet?
Yes. Oh, Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Amazing.
Love Twisted Metal. Love Twisted Metal. It is, if people are out there and they haven't watched it, it is the easiest half an hour watch on the face of the earth. It's with Anthony Mackie and with Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What's the actress's name? She was in Canto. I'm so embarrassed.
Rosa.
It's not Rosa Diaz.
Yeah. Fictional character Stephanie Beatrice.
Thank you. Stephanie Beatrice and Anthony Mackie are in it. Samoa Joe is randomly in it.
Oh, is Samoa Joe so good in this show?
Yep.
Because
so you know, a mutual friend of ours, auditioned for that part and lost out to Samoa Joe. He's a very handsome fella.
Oh, really? Well, let me tell you this. I'm not going to say anything bad about how he would have done, because I bet you he would have been amazing. But I was very surprised to find Samoa Joe actually having such a grasp on the character, but also being very he's emotional. You can see him, even with the mask, you can see him being a person and having a lot of different feelings with that mask on. That's gotta be from wrestling. And I know that he has wrestled under a mask in the past. That's just gotta be part of that.
So Twisted Metal, love that show. I'm gearing up for Holiday Baking Championship and the new series of Bobby's Triple Threat. Very excited.
Okay.
Not Holiday, Halloween. What am I talking? Halloween Baking Championship is first. Don't be crazy. And I will openly admit I am getting all excited about season 49 of Survivor. I've been addicted to Survivor for 25 years.
Yeah, the thing is, I would never got involved with Survivor, but now that these characters are coming into the other worlds, right? I mean, Boston Rob just showed up in Traders, and now I have to go back and watch all Boston Rob stuff. So yeah, you're probably going to be hearing from me talking about these shows in the future.
So there we go. So all right, so that's what I'm watching now.
All right. And that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and listening to us ramble on about some of the most interesting but also geekiest things you probably could ever imagine. Until next time, live what you love and geek out.
Golden Geeks.